Hey everybody, this is Beyond Range, and today we're gonna be making another video working on some more fundamentals with GTO Wizard. So again, we are in the big blind and we are facing a 1/3 continuation bet versus the button. And the board is King Queen 3. The Jack 8 is going to be too weak to continue. You might start calling something like Ace 9 or Ace 8. You might call some, maybe backdoor flush draws, but this combo is a little bit too weak. On the King 3, the Queen 9 I believe is gonna end up being a little bit too weak as well. But you might call Queen 9 actually. It probably is gonna be the Queen 10 or the Queen 9 threshold, but imagine that if you end up calling the flop too wide, then your opponent is going to be able to value bet thinner when you end up getting to turns with quite a wide range, quite a weak range. You want to make sure that you're not way over calling the flop. These situations are pretty important. Here on the King 3 deuce, the Queen Jack is probably right at the threshold. It might be a pure call. Queen 10 might be the hand that gets mixed, but yeah, basically you can see how you're going to call, and you're going to hit a lot of Queen X, Jack X. There are a lot of runouts where you're not going to want to bluff ace high, and then you're going to struggle to find bluffs. And this is going to be quite a reasonable combo to be calling. Apparently we're only calling 42%. I thought we were almost pure calling this, so I'm making a mistake here. I may be overweighting the value of having something like these kind of combinations on the turn, and then Queen Jack on the turn. There's kind of a weird thing that's happening, right? So if you always fold the turn with Queen Jack, when a 10 comes on the river and your opponent knows that you never have Queen Jack, well, now in positions value bets with even like a hand like Ace King, he can kind of be quite aggressive. And he's able to force you to put money in and bluff catch with a lot of weaker hands. By you continuing this combination, what you're doing is you're kind of able to stabilize the rest of your range. And really, the way that I'm putting it is not actually that accurate, because if you want to put it in a more simplistic, direct way, if we never have this hand in our range, then our opponent is going to put so much money in when a 10 comes that it's going to make us want to start calling it. But then if we always are calling it and our opponent knows that we arrive to the river with too much, let's say Queen Jack, well then our opponent is likely going to be playing a strategy where we don't want to call it because our range might be too weak. And in addition to that, say a 10 doesn't come, well our opponent's going to know that our arrive to river range is quite weak. They will bluff more, they will value bet more thin. So I think that this is right at the threshold where you need to probably do both options. So it's almost a 50-50 mix. And you might find a touch of raise here, I'm not entirely sure. So the texture here is King, King, Queen. And I don't know about A7, because it feels like A7 is right at the border of being okay. So it seems like this is, apparently we're only on 6% call, which is a little bit surprising. I thought that we would be calling this combination a little bit more often. That makes me a little bit sad because I thought that I was more accurate, but I might be overcalling the flop a bit too much in this situation. So on the turn, this hand needs to fold. We're going to have a lot of combos like King X, Queen X, lower pocket pairs, and A7 is not going to be good enough here. You're also going to have some amount of hearts. I don't know what hearts we're going to have, because a lot of our hearts on the flop are going to fold. We're not going to call something like 6-7 of hearts on the flop, but you might have some Ace X of hearts. You might have some random Jack 8 of hearts or whatever the case is. On the King Queen 6 with Ace 3, I believe this hand just needs to always continue, and you need to be mixing in some raises and some calls. But it's quite a strong texture for the in-position player, so we're not going to be raising this texture so frequently. But yeah, this hand you can kind of do multiple things with here. On the queen turn, basically your opponent is going to be doing a little bit more check with his queen X region when he bets the flop. Right, he'll have more checks with the queen X and more bets with the king X, whereas you are going to be calling a lot on the flop with queen X. However, when you don't raise, you're going to be more capped in general, and your opponent is going to be less capped. And even if you do have some queen X, your opponent having a lot of hands like pocket sixes, queen six, king queen, pocket kings, if you start betting too often on this turn when you don't really have that much equity to deny, you're not really able to take that much away from his random unpaired combinations, because a lot of your range is going to be a king, or it's going to be paired, or it's going to be a queen. Well, he's going to be able to leverage his very strong nuts and find very big raises when you bet. In terms of this hand class, I think that this combo is going to be a hand that just doesn't bet very often. But you might have some random gut shots or maybe some random other stuff that will bet. I think this hand needs to pure fold on the turn. It's just not going to be good enough. You can continue with some stuff like ace-jack, ace-10, but this one is not good enough. Here we do have a gut shot, but it's very weak, and if you're calling a hand like 8-7, you're almost range calling this situation. You need to be very aggressive with your folds in this spot. It could be pretty easy to way over call if you're not careful. The jack 3 here again, this is just way too weak to be continuing. It's not going. Apparently we're actually continuing a little bit. So we're continuing with flop raise a little bit, and I made a mistake. So I didn't realize that this kind of combination would be getting in the flop racing range, which makes sense. We're going to do a few more hands and then we're going to wrap it up. This hand needs to pure fold. This is not strong enough to continue. And the pocket sixes here is going to be on pure call. You can think about how much your range is going to consist of something like a king, a jack, a 7, a gut shot. Sixes is just a very efficient hand to be calling because you end up binking a 6 and it becomes essentially the nuts. So it's a very valuable hand to be continuing, because even when the 6 comes, it's not like there's a new straight that's available. So your opponent is going to end up putting money in quite aggressively because you don't really improve on the 6, so they're going to continue to be able to value bet quite thin. I believe that it's hard to work out what bluffs you would have, but you might want to dig from like 3s and 4s and 5s more, because he will end up checking a lot of stuff like 5s and 6s at this point. But apparently we're betting a little bit, which I didn't expect too much. So this is going to be a session, my friends. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you in the next episode. Okay, bye for now.